So 15 years to the day of the falling away of the old architecture of thinking, the Twin Towers, the double erection of religious arrogance and financial hubris. Because what we are doing is we see the third way, which is the return of the sacred. It's not either or, but truly the balancing between each. And what is very fascinating in my work, because I started to see that we're used to religious prophecy, you know, he is coming, she is coming, it's later, it's down the road. But we're not used to thinking of creative prophecy, and this is something that Leonard Shlain, the late Leonard Shlain, who was a wonderful writer and man, wrote in a book called Art and Physics. And he talked about how the artists have a tendency, because they're connected with the imaginative and creative, to precede, in a sense, to have impressions about what is going on in human consciousness. And this is a bit what Reverend Michael and I were talking about, is the sense of moving outside of the personal. And the one thing of working in a mythic structure in the archetypes of the tarot was it forced me away from illustrating anything I thought I knew. I was forced into not knowing. And through the gates of the darkness of not knowing, what occurred and what began to establish itself was a pattern that revealed to me, not again by conceit or expectation, but revealed to me this which would start to say we are on a remarkable journey, and it began in 1986. I found it very fascinating that AGAPE began then, and this begins this journey, because the tarot, the 22 archetypes of this, basically, because I didn't look at them as divinatory, or I didn't look at them in terms of the old tradition. As an actor, I wanted to know, what is the theater of the psyche? I've played everything from murderers to saints. What is it in the psyche? What is all of this conversation going on? And how do we create tools that allow us to connect with this theater of the psyche? So I spent, as I said, 17 years moving through 22 figures, 22 ideas of the arcana. And what this shows here is that truly what's being released with the falling away of the old architecture of thinking is the release of the inner energetics of perception and truly the deep feminine aspects of consciousness. Because the feminine is that which is not in time. It is that which is the door to all time. And in my work, it's also said that we must understand that matter is mother. And we are composed of matter, mother. We are formed of clay, salt, and water. And we enter through her into all civilizations, all variations on a theme of what it means to be human. So therefore, truly the creative and imaginative, like wisdom, which are considered feminine, is what we must return to if we are ever going to enter or move through the gate of self-knowledge that isn't based in just give me a little bit more time, a little bit more ruthlessness, and I'll be able to create the computer chip that makes you all behave. And this is something that I think we have to be concerned about on a certain level, is because the decisions are being made by a very different set of what it means to be human. And that's why I feel that the creative and imaginative are gathering now, and that we really are weavers. But when we look at history, what happens is it's not the many that weave the different story, it's the storytellers that say, you know what, if we start holding on to a different sense of who and what we are, we can let the training wheels fall away. The old architecture we don't need. We don't need to keep repeating the same old bad ideas over and over and over again. What we need to do is to begin to understand that we live within many worlds simultaneously. And if we think about our ancientness and our journey, what was so extraordinary was that this journey from 1986 to 2001, 9/11, on 9/11, when the towers came down, I heard, now it begins. And I'd love to go on and say, and then they spake it, and said, but all I heard was now it begins. Which is the key to a lot of truly mystical insight. It's not that you're given a lot of information, you're just given a couple of words, and your curiosity starts building. It's almost like Roger Rabbit. All right, I'll do it. I have to find out. So so on 9/11, in 2001, what was extraordinary was I began painting the floor of my studio. And I didn't think it would go beyond this. But I've realized in my journey that we are comic relief for a higher form of consciousness. When we understand that, it's like, oh yeah, I get it. It's supposed to be funny. So I was painting on linoleum, and the great thing about linoleum is you can't make it look worse. So it's for a painter, you know, it's can you ruin it? Oh no, it's already ruined. And that's why I started this painting, thinking it would be just a thought experiment, because a lot of my work comes from really the example Einstein used, which was thought experiments, saying, look, there's no way to ride a light wave, but what if I put my mind there and think about riding that light wave? Well, that's what I do with my art. I think about ideas, or ideas. I'd love to say, actually, I always modify that saying, we don't actually have ideas. Ideas have us. So you have to come to the terms, do I like these ideas? They seem to like me a lot. So do we have to part company, or are they going to really take me down the road and we're going to have a rich relationship, or am I going to find myself sort of in a vampiric relationship? The thoughts are fed well, but I am starving. And this is why on 9/11, 2001, until actually 9/11, 2008, and the inauguration of Barack, is a 22-year period leading from this drawing of the world archetype, as I said, with the Twin Towers, to the outcome of this room, because I painted the floors, walls, ceiling, couch, chair, computer. As a matter of fact, I painted everything in the room. I painted under the couch. I painted the walls. And that's why, if you're interested, you can sign up and come see the studio. I suggest it because it will liberate the inner creator, horrify the moms in the audience because it will liberate the inner creator in your children too. Mom, he draws on his couch, he paints on his walls. And I've had a few moms say, oh, it's wonderful, but now he wants to paint on the floor, and I have all the sympathy of, let him. And that's why this journey, though, and I feel it's very important, is that we've been going through a long process of coming to understand that what's emerging now is not we send a politician to Washington and everything changes, I think I'll go shopping. It's saying, no, we are at a critical mass where not simply our belief, but our energy, the thoughts that we hold, how we think about who and what we are, will fundamentally create the world post-2012. Because in my writing, actually, and when I was working in the studio, I painted Eve on a light pillar. As I say, you have to come visit because I'll start sounding quite insane. But this way, if you're going to go nuts, you might as well dive. So I painted Eve, a light being, on a light pillar. And as I was painting her, and again, as an actor, you start to listen to the inner voice and get used to people going, well, if you listen to the inner voice, you're crazy. And you go, no, you just have really good conversations. So this really good conversation inwardly started to tell the story of Adam reborn and Eve restored. It revisioned Genesis, but it didn't revision Genesis throwing away the story. It went deeper, and it started to reveal the love and the multidimensionality of the lover and the beloved. This is one of the things I really admire with Reverend Micah, because he talks about the beloved. And if I had to say anything in my life that I've been honored, is I've been with Carla for 33 years, and she is truly my beloved. And because of her healing of me, all of these worlds were able to truly manifest, but they manifest first at home. And that's another point I like to bring out about my work, because as an actor, I enjoyed a public life. And a friend of mine was an actor turned very successful screenwriter, so he doesn't talk about his acting anymore. He said, you see, Lee, you managed to live a public life anonymously. And I said, that's the best way of putting it, because I would work, things would go out onto the air, but then I would go home, have the discussion groups, and work privately. And not knowing that I was cultivating a garden with Carla and my daughters then, Brighton and Caitlin, my two lights of my life, they came along, and I started to realize, oh, this is the reality. It's not out there, it's not the next job, it's not a movie, it's not a role, it's home. And then I started to think about E.T. I started to think about the Wizard of Oz. What's the whole point in the human spirit? I want to go home. Where is home? Well, what is home? And that's the question I want to ask. Home is the heart. And where we live in the heart is where we communicate with each other intimately. And as every lover and beloved knows, that the questions we ask behind closed doors are very different than the ones we ask when we're in the public square trying to dominate each other. And that's why I know that Jesus was married. His wife would say, okay, God, take out the trash. Because you're going to get over yourself. You're not going to be lauded for how wonderful and magnificent you are. She's going to look at you and go, well, that's well, fine, but what are you going to do about it?